So it is 7:35, so I think we are going to get started. So welcome everybody to day 2 of the DSU election debates for the 2022 winter general election. I'm Will, I'm the Chief Returning Officer for this election, and I'm just going to open up the debate by doing a land acknowledgement, reading the DSU equity statement, and communicating some housekeeping details before handing it over to our moderator, Jamie, to get started with the VPFO debate. So I'll start with a land acknowledgement. The Dalhousie Student Union acknowledges that the Dalhousie University and the Dalhousie Student Union building are located on traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The Dalhousie Student Union seeks to honor the relational treaty process in its programming, events, and meetings. I'd ask everyone who's here today to pay particular attention and care about our presence on this land and how we can contribute to reconciliation, unlearning, and relearning as we enter into dialogues regarding our institutions. And now I'm just going to read the DSU equity statement. Student union solidarity is based on the principle that all members should be able to participate equally in their union, recognizing that students have diverse experiences of privilege and marginalization. As members of the Students' Union, mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are our goals. We should neither condone nor tolerate behavior that undermines the dignity of any individual or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. It is our collective responsibility to create an inclusive space for discussion and dialogue. Any form or forms of discrimination and/or harassment will not be tolerated, nor will hate speech rooted in, but not limited to, sexist, racist, classist, ableist, homophobic, or transphobic sentiments and/or remarks. We all have an obligation to ensure that an open and inclusive space free of hate is established. If you violate this understanding, you will be asked to leave. And then before I hand over the debate to our moderator, Jamie, who's the DSU Council Chair, who's very graciously agreed to moderate these debates, I just want to go through some housekeeping items. So just as a reminder, the debate is being recorded and will be posted tomorrow on the DSU YouTube channel and the DSU Elections website. We also have live captioning enabled for this debate, so if you want to put that on, just go to the bottom of your screen, hit the transcriptions button. And then we also have a link in the chat to submit questions for the both of the debates tonight. So check in the chat, click that link, and you'll be able to submit a question for one or both of the debates. Some of these questions may be selected, and the rest of the questions have been either selected by Elections Committee or will be selected as we go through the debate. Additionally, the candidates are aware of the rules beforehand, but the moderator, Jamie, will be doing a brief overview of the rules before we get started. So with that said, we'll pass it over to Jamie to introduce our candidates and our first debate, which will be for the Vice President, Finance and Operations.
All right. Hi, everybody. How's it going? So yeah, we're going to start with the debate for the Vice President, Finance and Operations. Our two candidates are Amin and Mohab Brisha. And so I'm just going to go over our debate rules briefly and just remind our candidates of the rules of the debating process. So firstly, there should be no attacks on each other as candidates or other groups of people in any ways that are discriminatory or offensive. Any behavior of that type will not be tolerated, and anybody engaging in that type of behavior will be asked to leave. When you are crafting your response, you should be addressing myself as moderator and not each other or the audience per se. And you can reference another candidate's response to a question, but only if that response is not sort of discriminatory or offensive or mocking. You can agree and disagree, but don't mock each other. So we're going to begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement. And just 1 second, I just need to grab my time indicator. Sorry, yes, each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement, and throughout the debate, for all the questions, I will indicate the time limit for each question, but no matter what the time limit for each question, when there's 20 seconds left, I will raise this orange square. I'll kind of wave it around so that the candidate sees it. That just means you have 20 seconds left and you should wrap up whatever comments you're making. Excuse me. So we're going to have two types of questions. One type is a 90-second response. And the way that we're going to go through our questions is that whoever answers the first question first, I will then switch it so that the next person gets to speak first on the second question, so on and so forth. The other type of question that we have is more of a discussion-based question, and that one has an overall 5-minute timeline. But the way that we're going to do those is that each candidate will have 45 seconds of speaking time and will rotate between candidates. If we finish if each person gets a chance to have their 45 seconds of speaking time and there are no further comments, then we stop the discussion, or we stop when the 5 minutes is up. Once we finish all the questions, which is the debate portion of the debate, each candidate has 1 minute for closing statements. In the approximate middle of the debate, we're going to have a break. That'll be 10 minutes. And during that break, cameras and mics should be turned off. When we are doing questions, the only people who should have their cameras on are the candidates, and the only people who should have their microphones on are the people who are speaking. So if the other candidate is speaking, please turn your microphone off. And during one debate, the candidates for the other debate should have all of their microphone, their cameras, all that off. So further rules, candidates are expected to always have the cameras on, always have your microphones on mute when you're not speaking. Timing for each question begins when the candidate begins to speak. And for the discussion-based questions, it's whenever the first candidate begins to speak. The way that we'll do the discussion-based questions is I'll present the question, and then whoever comes up with something to say first, just raise your hand and I will call on you, and then we'll go back and forth between candidates. We'll begin our opening statements by going alphabetically by last name. So Henry will be first, and then for closing statements, it'll be switched. And then finally, just a brief discussion of transgressions. So we have 3 types of transgressions that can be subject to fines or penalties. The first is a minor transgression. And so that's something that goes against debate rules, but isn't very serious. So for example, if you cut off another candidate, especially during the 5-minute discussion portion, that's a transgression. Be careful of that, you'll get a warning, but after your first warning, you will be subject to a fine. It's different because of the format we're using, but don't engage the audience, as it were. So if we do have student submitted questions, don't speak to the individual, as it were, that has submitted the question. You won't know who they are, but don't reference them, just answer the question. And we have to make sure that we're all using proper pronouns. I will get you both to introduce yourselves when you do your opening statements, including stating your pronouns. Moderate transgressions is if you were to cut off a candidate in a kind of disruptive manner. So if you were to cut them off to disagree with them, cut them off to say something rude, things like that. And if you ignore instructions to stop talking at any point, then that's a transgression as well. It's not so much an issue on Zoom because I have the ability to mute you if you're going over time, which I will do. So be aware of your timing, especially the 20-second warning. I will give you like 3 seconds grace, but wrap it up. So I will have to mute you if you go too far over time. And I apologize for that, but that's just the nature of the debate. And finally, serious transgressions would of course be anything that incites violence or hatred, any providing any information about someone's identity that might bring them harm. So outing somebody, for example, or spreading or implying false information and or harmful information. So making accusations, insulting, things like that. So that should be all the rules that are relevant for the evening. And I know that candidates have been given the rules in advance as well. So with that said, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, then we will move to our opening statement portion of the debate. So a reminder, each candidate gets 2 minutes for their opening statement, and we will begin with Henry. So whenever you're ready, Henry.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Henry Amin. I go by he, him, his, and I'm a third-year economics student. I'm here today to introduce myself and my platform to you all, and I would like to raise more awareness about the DSU election. And the debates are a huge part of this process. As your VPFO, I will focus on finding financial solutions for students. I will hire more students on campus. I will prioritize food security by providing crucial support for the DSU farmers market and the food bank. And I will also try to find efficient ways to reduce the prices of food on campus. I want to also prioritize funding bursary programs, especially the emergency housing bursary, because we all know that housing here in Halifax is a problem and the tuition is constantly rising. So students are suffering and some students can't even afford to pay rent. So I would like to increase the number of students that can apply to this bursary program to support them with paying their rent. I will also fight for a more equitable community by advocating for LGBTQ and BIPOC representation in all services on campus. And I will also try to advocate for them out of campus as well. It's not just on campus. And I will prioritize making Tiger Patrol more accessible for students to ensure their safety on campus. And I want to make sure that international students are aware of the services that are provided on campus, because I know as an international student, it's a bit hard to find these services or even know about them. So it's going to be a priority for me to do that. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And now we'll move to Mohab.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Mohab Brisha. I am currently a student of marine biology at Dalhousie University. I'm an international student. I would be a good candidate for this position. I feel like because my experience of being a part of this community for a very long period of time, being a very active part of this community, that allows me to better connect with student issues and better identify student issues. Having said that, I feel a lot of the student issues that I will be considering focusing on are issues like more representation at the highest level of decision making at the university. I feel like that's a very important place to start when it comes to tackling most, if not all, advocacy related issues, because it's better to become part of, become a more decisive part of the decision-making process, a more active part, I should say, of the decision-making process, rather than just hoping and protesting and telling the people who decide on our behalf to do the right thing. So I feel like that's a very important platform that I feel like is not really taken seriously. I understand why to a certain extent. It is not easy, but I feel like I have now, since I have been serving as the Vice President of Finance, I have the required experience to work on it, as well as many other goals as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you both. So now we're going to move into the question portion of the debate. And we're going to begin with a 90-second question. So that is a minute and 30 seconds. And let me just set my timer. And so the first question, we're going to begin with Henry and then Mohab, then you'll be able to answer the same question afterwards, and then we'll switch the order for the next question, so on and so forth. I'll indicate that. And I will repeat the question for both candidates to make sure you understand and hear fully when you're about to respond. Okay, so Henry, what do you think is the most pressing issue to the Dalhousie community right now?
Other than the constant rising tuition and fees, I believe the most pressing issue right now, or a couple of issues basically, are food security and housing, because this pandemic has affected us all financially. And personally, I've seen my friends, several friends, suffer by working 2 part-time jobs, and they are barely able to afford tuition and food and books and rent. So I want to target these issues. I would like to increase funding for bursary programs for housing, and I would like to increase support for the food bank. And I want to find several ways to lower the cost of food on campus so that students would afford food, because it's been tough for everyone when it comes to these issues. So I'm frustrated, and I would like to do my best to fix these issues. I would like to have all students able to afford rent and food on campus or even out of campus. So it's going to be my priority to support students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to do same question again for Mohab. What do you think is the most pressing issue to the Dalhousie community right now?
I'm gonna have to agree with Henry here on a lot of those points. Tuition is definitely one of the biggest, most significant issue that compounds all other issues that students are facing currently. Housing has been a personal issue for me for a very, very long time now, and for also many of my friends who have been struggling with a housing situation. So it's a very, very real, very, very tangible issue that is experienced by almost every student in Dalhousie currently. So it's definitely one of those serious issues. Here's how I'm considering fixing these issues. I believe once currently as the DSU, the limited capability of the DSU, even though the DSU has some resources allocated for people who are struggling with these issues. However, the best way to deal with these issues would be to again go directly to Dalhousie as well and demand more support for these very, very crucial issues that impact students on a very high level. And the only way we can actually get a valid response from Dalhousie is if we have better representation. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you both. So we'll move on to the next question, and this time we'll go Mohab first and then Henry. So the question is, one of the VPFO's jobs is to draft the annual budget. What are areas that you see as needing support, and how do you plan to reallocate those funds? And this is again a 90-second question. Mohab, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Jamie. That's a very good question. I think there are many areas that could definitely use a lot more support. Food security is definitely one of them. A lot of areas where more support would be useful is also engagement. That's a very, very important aspect of the DSU that can always use more funding, especially with societies. So many different clubs that operate under the DSU that all need funds in order to engage the student body and in order to create that environment where students can feel like they belong and they can become an active part of the Dalhousie community. And that's really at the core of the student experience here at Dalhousie. So all of these are areas that definitely I would prioritize personally. as far as funding for the budget. More specifically would be, I feel, the Sexton and Truro campuses, which we have done work this year to allocate more funding towards. However, I'd like to see more, and hopefully I'll be able to do more in the future as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so Henry, same question. One of the VPFO's jobs is to draft the annual budget. What are areas that you see as needing support, and how do you plan to reallocate those funds?
So basically, when organizations draft their budget, they usually prioritize what they value the most in this budget. And like any morally successful organization, we have to value students the most, and we have to look for the issues that our students are suffering with the most. And what I would do is to support students with housing. I want to support students with food security. I want to increase the funds to bursary programs for housing and food security. I want to support the food bank to have more students able to get food, basically, if they need. And I want to look for ways to make food more affordable on campus. I also want to support societies. I don't want them to feel secluded by the union. I want them to feel more included, because as we all know, that societies are a major part of the university experience, and we make connections that last a lifetime because of societies. So it's important that they feel more included, and to allocate funds for societies as well. But yeah, my major targets are going to be food insecurity and housing. I want to support students by increasing funding for both issues. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So next we're going to do a 5-minute question, and just to remind both of you, so it's a 5-minute overall time limit, but we'll go 45 seconds each back and forth until there's either no more discussion or the 5 minutes is up. Just fix my timer. And whoever has an idea first, just raise your hand, and then we'll start the back and forth. Okay, so the question is, what areas do students need support in the most right now? Go ahead, Mohab.
I strongly believe students need to feel like they are being heard. That means advocacy, and it means a real sense of advocacy, and it means hope that we can actually achieve the goals that we are looking for, that we've been struggling with achieving for so long, such as limiting tuition increase, and also getting more support from the university in key issues such as housing and other issues as well. Thank you. Great,
thank you. Go ahead, Henry.
I believe, again, I repeat, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I would like to target food security, and I would like to target housing, and I would like to promise students that I will do my best to lower tuition, but I won't give any empty promises, because if it's possible, if it's doable, the executives for the past 10 years could have done that already. So I will promise that I will do my best to fight tuition increases, but I will target food security, I will target housing, and I will support having more communication on campus, because after all, we represent 20,000 students. So we will be heard if we fight for what we want, and we just have to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you both. Mohab, do you have further discussion or response? It's not required. Perfect, okay, so we'll move on to our next question. So this is going to be another 90-second question. Just fix the timer. So we're going to begin in reverse order from the last 90-second question. And so we'll begin with Mohab. And so the question is, describe your experiences with accounting and audits.
Thank you very much, Jamie. So my experience with accounting and audits is, I would say, pretty decent. I have been the primary bookkeeper for my family for a period of time now, and also I've been in support in charge of running the budget for events in the past as well. So I've been, that's all before joining the university. Of course, that's a long time ago. And also I have experience through being the acting vice president, finance and operations for the past year, during which I had to conduct many audits, and I had to actually review the audit process and master it in order to teach it to all other societies, to make sure that everyone is has a solid understanding of the audit process, to make sure that everything functions smoothly. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. And so Henry, same question. Describe your experiences with accounting and audits.
To begin with, how I gained financial literacy, I basically managed my family's accounts as well for the past 5 years. And I've gained financial literacy by undertaking several courses about finances, because I'm an economics student, so it's a major part of economics. I've also been elected as a leader of my entire class of about 500 students in my foundation year in medicine, to a position which is similar to the VPFO. So I was responsible about the finances of this class. I was responsible about drafting budgets for trips to hospitals and to events outside of the university and in the university. So I have decent financial literacy because of that. And I have successfully helped analyze and create financial budgets for university events because of that position. So I would say that I have a decent amount of experience when it comes to finances. Thank you.
Perfect. So next we're going to do another 5-minute question. And so the question is, what resources do you think are the most critical from the DSU?
So I feel the most important resource the DSU provides for students, other than financial support, is connections. The DSU represents 20,000 students. And for that reason, everyone from university to government will have to listen to what we have to say, because we're basically a huge portion of the population here. So if we know how to take advantage of this opportunity, we will get what we're fighting for. And I would like to have the chance to have this opportunity to represent the students and to advocate for them. I want to lobby for the students, and I will do it passionately. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohab, whenever you're ready.
Yes. So the most important service that the DSU provides, I believe, is, even though there's many extremely important services, of course, the food bank, all the financial supports, but I believe the most important service is the advocacy, because without a voice for students, it's not their ability to improve their university experience with their own voice is going to be very limited. So I feel like that's one of, if not the most important services. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry, any response? Okay, no worries. Okay, so the next question that we have is another 90-second question, and we'll begin with Henry. So the question is, how do you plan to lead societies through the audit process?
Yeah. Basically, I want to lead them through transparency. I want them to provide all the necessary information for me to basically lead them through this process. I want them to trust me. We have to have mutual trust in this process because it's an important process for the union and for the students as well. Yeah, that's basically how my major point. I just want to be transparent with them. I want to have integrity as a major leader for us all, not just me. I don't want them to feel that I'm forcing them to do anything, right? We're just like here representing the union all together. We're basically one unit. I want them to understand that we're one unit and we're just all together doing this process. So my major point is just mutual trust. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And Mohab, how do you plan to lead societies through the audit process?
Thank you. Yes, I would have to also agree with Henry on a large part of that. Trust is very important. So is transparency, which is a big, strong element of a functional relationship with societies. However, I would also put a lot of emphasis on processes that work, that are efficient. So in my experience, even before working with the DSU, there's always been issues with the audit process. It's been an ongoing thing, I believe, for a very long time. And once I was able to be in office, I found out a bunch of reasons why that might be the case. And I've been working on upgrades to the current systems that we are having at the DSU. And I believe these upgrades will definitely work on making the entire process many times more efficient. It will ensure documents are not lost, which is what causes all the issues. It will ensure all of the technical details are well taken care of. And once we have that, everything else is very smooth from there, because once you have a solid process that works, that is well understood, then it really doesn't matter who's in office. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. And so we'll have one final question before the break. And this is another 90-second question. Excuse me. And we'll begin with Mohab. So the question is, what is one unique thing that you bring to the role, and how do you plan on putting it into action?
So I believe one of the most unique things I bring to the role is my experience as a student, my experience as a member of the DSU, but also my experience being a hopeful person. I believe that is a very, very important quality to have when you're faced with such massive issues, such as that affect so many people on such a personal level. It's very important to have hope that you can actually change this, or at least take a step forward towards, even if it's a small step, towards the goal. I feel like that's truly what makes me unique. I always believe that we can do it, or at the very least, we can take a small step forward, no matter what the goal is.
Perfect, thank you. And Henry, same question. What is one unique thing that you bring to the role, and how do you plan on putting it into action?
So I have been raised in several countries, and due to that fact, I had to go into international schools. And in these schools, I've met friends from all over the world, from every nation you can imagine. And because of this opportunity I had, I was able to create a sense of responsibility and respect for understanding people and what they value the most. So I ended up seeking to understand every person's values and principles, what they like and what they don't like, the importance of their background in shaping their personality, and how they view the world, basically. This deepened the connection with everyone I've met from that moment on. And I understand how important it is to communicate and listen to people. I will be there to listen to students. I want to listen to what they have to say. I want to understand the problems they're facing. I want to understand what they want me to do about it. And I will work tirelessly on supporting them every step of the way. I will be there for them. And I really want them to know that I'm going to be there. I want them to treat me like a sibling who's in the same fight as they are. I would consider that a unique thing I would bring to the union. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for all your responses so far. So now we're going to have a break. And if it sounds good to everybody, I'll make that a 10-minute break. And so it is 8:11 p.m. right now, and so we'll come back at 8:21. Thank you. All right, everybody, if you are ready, we can get back into it. Alrighty, and so we're going to start with another 90-second question. And we will start with Henry this time. So the question is, what do you plan to do in your first semester in office?
So basically my first semester in office will be the summer semester. And what I would like to do is to find a way to convince the university to keep an online platform at a reduced tuition rate, so that students can afford it, especially if they can't be physically on campus. It should be a viable option since this platform has already been established during the pandemic. This is one of the things I would like to do, and I will try my best to make it happen because it would help a lot when it comes to the financial situation for all students. And I think the university would actually consider such an option because it would actually benefit them financially as well, because more students will apply to this program. Yes, so that's the first thing I would like to do. I would like to organize like the bursary programs so that I would have more time to make it available for students, especially since I'm going to increase the number of students that can apply to such programs. I would also want to work on food security. I will organize everything that has to do with food security and how I will apply this in real life on campus. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And so Mohab, same question. What do you plan to do in your first semester in office?
Thank you, Jamie. And so in the first semester, which would be the summer semester, I would use it mainly as time for organizing for the goal of trying to increase our representation, the student representation in Dalhousie is a main decision-making body. That is specifically because the summer is somewhat of a less active period for student engagement. So there will be less things going on that end that need focusing on. Of course, they will be prioritized as well, but for that period of time, that will be the best time to actually start to get the ball rolling on that and try to start work on some lobbying as well, and to try to make sure that by the time that when the time comes that the students are there, we've already laid enough groundwork for this endeavor of achieving proper advocacy at the Dalhousie decision-making level. So that's the main goal I'll be working on, at least for the first semester, and just to make sure that it actually happens. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you both. Okay, so next, excuse me, we're going to be moving to a 5-minute question. Just adjust my timer. Okay. So again, whoever has a point can just raise their hand first. And so the question is, how do you plan on supporting marginalized groups on campus in your role? Go ahead, Mohab.
So part of the position of the VP Finance is to basically chair the committee for international students, for example. You're also, that would be one outlet where I would focus on supporting students, trying to make sure that it goes on well, trying to increase funding for that whenever possible. So that's one of the main ways. Also try to make sure that you listen to the communities that you're trying to help, if for any specific goal that we're trying to achieve, such as what we were doing with the Indigenous student bursary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Henry, same question. How do you plan on supporting marginalized groups on campus in your role?
The way I want to support marginalized groups on campus is by being all ears. I want to speak with the representatives of every group, and I want to understand what exactly they need me to do and what exactly needs to be worked on. And I will do everything in my power to make it work. And I will provide everything they need. I will also advocate for them and always be there for them whenever they need me. I want everyone to feel supported and protected when they come to discuss any issue with me that needs to be targeted on campus or even out of campus. So yes, I will be all ears, and being the VPFO, I will also have the power to support them financially and be there for them and advocate for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohab, any response? Okay, perfect. So next we're going to do another 90-second question. Okay, and we will begin with Mohab. So the question is, how do you plan on ensuring the rejection of the proposed increase in tuition?
Again, this is one of my main goals for the summer. I believe for the current tuition increase, I believe there's the main strategy we're going to have is to spread the information about what's going on, make sure students know more about it, make sure students are well educated about the topic, which is, while I believe it is very good groundwork for actually solving the issue, I don't believe it is very efficient at solving the issue at all. I don't believe it will result directly in solving the issue. I believe ultimately the only thing that will actually result in solving the issue is increasing our, again, as I must have said it like a lot of times in this debate, however, I stand by it. It is to increase our representation as students in the highest decision-making bodies of Dalhousie University. That is the only way I see students having an actual chance, a very real chance of actually impacting tuition directly, as opposed to by proxy, by hoping that other people would share their opinion. Yeah, that's basically my strategy for working with it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Henry, same question. How do you plan on ensuring the rejection of the proposed increase in tuition?
So I don't want to give any empty promises about freezing tuition or lowering it in my platform. My platform focuses on supporting students financially in all aspects. And at the same time, I will do everything in my power to find a solution to the rising tuition cost, as well as trying to lower it. I don't want to just freeze it. I want it to be lowered. So what I'm going to do is to convince the university of having an online platform or a hybrid platform where they will have where they are going to lower the tuition, and we'll have the same programs, but the only difference is that it's going to be online. This is one of the solutions I would pursue. And we are basically representing 20,000 students. We need to take advantage of this situation. We need to raise more awareness about the DSU in general. There are a lot of students that don't even know the DSU exists. And believe me, I've been campaigning all this week, and most of the students I've met don't even know what the DSU does for them. So it's an important issue to raise awareness about the DSU and to have more engagement on campus. If there's an issue that needs to be targeted, we have to go to every class on campus and raise more awareness about it, and not just give empty promises. So my promise is that I will do everything in my power to try to find a solution to it. And I also promise to support students financially when it comes to housing and food security, because these issues are as equally as important. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have one final question, and this is another 5-minute question. Okay. So the question is, how do you plan on supporting students during the COVID-19 pandemic and in a post-COVID return?
So my plan is to find financial solutions to their problems, because as we all know, we've all been affected financially by this pandemic. So I want to support them financially where they need it. I want to listen to students and understand what their problems are, and support them by increasing funding for bursary programs, by increasing funding for housing programs. I want to work on lowering tuition by finding substitutes like the online platform or a hybrid platform, as long as it lowers tuition, and as well as fighting for lower tuition in general. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And Mohab, a response?
So yes, can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. How do you plan on supporting students during the COVID-19 pandemic and in a post-COVID return?
Yep, just wanted to make sure. Yes, of course. So for COVID specifically, I believe we should really focus as the DSU on the engagement, again, rebuilding that relationship between the DSU and students. That has to be done through large outreach efforts, which again has already been budgeted for as well. So it's just a matter of getting it done. So that's the main objective, I think, because that will eventually translate into improvements in everything, in every other aspect. It will allow us to be able to advocate for all the other issues for students once we have that engagement, once we have that connection again, because DSU is nothing without the students. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, that is all the questions that we have this evening. And so we will close with your closing statements, which are 1 minute long. And we'll go in reverse order, excuse me, to our opening statements. And so we will begin with Mohab.
Thank you very much, Jamie. So to close, I believe that the DSU has gone through a rough time in the past few years as well, with COVID and with decreasing engagement, with massive tuition increases in the absolute worst, most predatory times, in my opinion, to increase tuitions during. So I believe these are all massive issues that the students as a whole have been going through. And so the student union has to be affected by these issues. So since these issues, I believe, have compiled and been causing a lack of hope among students, I hope to work on bringing that back through engagement and through an active plan on how we can get back on track and how we can decide for ourselves what we want actively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohab. And Henry, closing statement.
So I would like to begin my closing statement by mentioning a quote from Ming Dao Deng, which is, "Whether we remain the ash or become the phoenix is up to us." So I've always been passionate about helping others, and as your VPFO, I will do everything in my power to always represent students in the best way possible in every situation. I want to lobby for the student at government and university roundtables to attempt lowering tuition and fight for an affordable post-secondary education. I want to ask for more funding for students. I want to ask for a more physically accessible infrastructures for students. I want to merge transparency, integrity, and compassion in the union. I want students to know that what I'm working on, and I want them to imagine that they're planning every single step of the way with me. I want to be transparent with all students. I want them to feel protected and represented, and I want them to know that I will always be there for them. So please vote for me, Henry Amin, if you like my platform or if you stand by the values I represent. And I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to both candidates this evening in the debate. And I will pass it back to William, our CRO.
Okay, great. Thank you so much to our VPFO candidates for a great first debate of the evening. So the next event we have is the VPI debate. So just a quick announcement about the VPI debate. So before the debate was a couple hours ago, I received notice from the other VPI candidate, Truly Love, indicating that they will be dropping out of the VPI race. So this debate will take the form of a question and answer period with our now single VPI candidate, Tammy Maniou. So we're just going to take a 5-minute break. So we'll be back at 8:42 and we will commence with the VPI question and answer period. Yeah, thanks everybody. And I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So at this point, we're going to get started with the VPI question and answer period. And VPFO candidates, you're welcome to stay for this question and answer, but you're by no means under any obligation to stay. So you can feel free to head out if you would like. So I've already kind of gone over housekeeping items, but I do just want to remind everybody that if you would like to submit questions for this question and answer period, you can do so using the link in the chat. And if you need closed captioning or would like to turn it on, you can click the live transcript button, which is located just in the corner. So with that said, I will hand things over to Jamie to conduct the question and answer period.
Perfect. All righty. And so just to update, because it is now a question and answer, we're going to keep basically the same format. We'll have 90-second and 5-minute questions. You don't have to use all the 5 minutes by yourself, of course, Tammy. But as much as you'd like to use that 5 minutes. So we'll begin with your opening statement, which will be 2 minutes. So whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to tonight's debate. Happy International Women's Day. My name is Thomais, but most people know me and refer to me as Tammy. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Athens, Greece, and I'm doing a double major in biochemistry and molecular biology, as well as philosophy. I'm currently in the 5th year of my undergraduate degree. I'm also a longtime member and current president of the Dalhousie and King's Debate Society. The reason why I'm running for VPI is that I want to support student societies and their members. I want to help the societies that barely made it out alive from the pandemic. I want to help the society